we had gone through my grandmother having dementia. I could provide for my mother what I had wished that I could have provided for my grandmother. I never in a million years expected that to happen. And that really put me in a bad spot. That was probably the most difficult part about it. It's like you're limiting your ability to take care of others by not taking care of yourself. What's that about?
Welcome to Dementia Dog Podcast. And today I have a special guest. Teresa Bueno is a friend that I feel honored to call a friend. She is, first of all, an incredible human. She's an improviser. She traveled the world with her improv team. She is the co author of the book Line Miner Senior, and she's a coach. And she says she's a coach to baby boomers to inspire people to live their best life. Because no matter what age you are, you still have life to live. And I think she's a testament to that. But besides that, Teresa had a story of her own mom going through Alzheimer's disease, her grandmother going through Alzheimer's disease. And so I thought it would be interesting to speak to her about this journey and how that was for her. Thank you, Teresa, for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Kanga. I'm really happy to be here.
Can you take us back on when your mom began to develop the signs of the disease? When did you know, oh, I think that is dementia?
Well, it it was hard to tell because um, she was so medicated. First, let me say that I was living in Costa Rica, and she was living in Atlanta with my father. And when I would talk with them, um, uh, Daddy was saying that he felt like this dementia issue was becoming stronger and stronger. The but she was so medicated on so many prescription drugs that I was like, how do you know? So I wasn't convinced. I was not convinced that it was dementia. I thought it was drug related to begin with. So she continued to get so bad that Daddy couldn't take care of her, and I was in Costa Rica, and so it was decided by the family that it would be better for her to come and live with me in Costa Rica, where we could keep her at home and I could, help there was excellent and far more affordable. So it just made sense for everybody, to everybody. So we, I came to the US and got mother and daddy came with us. And we took her to Costa Rica. And there
Wow.
she lived with me for 3 years until she died. But it was true that we worked very hard for practically a year to get her off of all of the medication that she was on. Doctors there would say anybody that's taking all of these medications, nobody could be normal and take all of this. So little by little, we got her off of those, and little by little, she came to life. And we
Mm-hmm.
thought we had really whipped it. We thought we're good. And and then she was taking this medication for Alzheimer's, and we could not get it in Costa Rica. And the only way that we could get it would be to bring her back to the United States. And so that didn't seem like an option anybody wanted to go with. So we just let her when it was over, it was over. And then it started a little bit, things um, not remembering things, and the other thing that as it progressed, she lost interest in things like reading. She'd been an avid reader, and she couldn't read anymore. She said she was too anxious to read, and so it just continued like that.
Oh, what a story. So, when you decided to take her to Costa Rica, she had the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, but you still thought that maybe other medications are affecting her?
Well, I don't know that she had been diagnosed with it per se. I think that because her mother my grandmother had
Mm,
died with Alzheimer's. It was sort of like free concluded by everyone that she would too. And so my father was very insistent, and they started her on this Alzheimer's medication. His evidence would be like he would take her to the doctor, and she would go to the ladies' room, and then she couldn't find her way back to the room where they had been. That was evidence to him that she clearly had dementia. He was just super. He was so convinced that she was going to have it that he just looked for evidence to support his hypothesis, and his position. So, the doctors were very willing to just write prescriptions. And so she was just very much over medicated. And like I said, she had time though. She had probably close to a year that she was pretty normal. Um, she, was really enjoying life, and um, we would go out to eat, and we would go to parties, and she loved Costa Rica, and
mm,
she loved having someone, like she said, to take care of her, that finally she was being taken care of instead of taking care of others. And so she was very, very happy, and then it just started trickling in, and and didn't stop.
mm.
It just kept getting worse.
Yeah, I wanted to ask how was the move to Costa Rica for her? Because for some people, how old was she?
Let's see, she would have been 81,
Hmm.
81, about
For
80, 81. Yeah.
So I assume that for some people at 81, it's not that easy to leave the place they lived and then move. And but for your mom, she clearly enjoyed it.
She did. Mother was always she had the wanderlust. She
Uh,
loved to travel. She loved to go places. So it didn't show up for her like a problem. Showed up for her like an adventure. Even though at that time when she was first coming there, like she was so unaware really of anything. But once she came to her senses as the drugs, we got her off more and more of the drugs, she really loved living in Costa Rica, and she
mm,
was, not interested. Mother was always one never to want, she never really looked back that much.
uh,
Certainly, like even her hometown, when we would talk about where um, she wanted to be cremated, but I asked her, did she want her ashes to be strewn someplace in particular? She's like, no, I don't care. I don't care. And I said, well, we just bury them up there with Papa and Granny, her parents. She said, oh, no, don't you take me back there. If you take me back there, I'll haunt you. So we used to laugh about that and tease her and tell her we were going to put her ashes in Chatsworth. So that's the way, it's like she was always one to look like, where are we going, more than where have we been.
mm,
And so she was very
amazing.
happy there. My father, not so much. My father had a lot of resistance. And that's why he stayed in Atlanta when we
Okay.
came down here. He didn't want, he liked that familiarity. He liked knowing where he was and how to get places, and the control that he felt like he had. He was very, very reluctant to give that up. And it was like a year after Mama came and lived with us before he came down. Of course, she was begging him to come the whole time. They would talk nearly every day, and she would like want him to come and want him to come. And finally, he did. He came, and of course, he was never happy there. And after she died, we moved back to the States. Mainly, well, not mainly, but he was a big contributing factor to going back to the States.
And what about you? When you decided, hey, I'm going to take my mom, did you know how hard the journey ahead is to have to care for your mom with dementia?
Well, yes and no. I don't think one ever fully knows things like that, but we had gone through my grandmother having dementia. and Alzheimer's and having to go into a home and not being well cared for. And, uh, Granny, as a child, I had a very close relationship with her. I was her first granddaughter, and she was only 45 when I was born. And Granny was very active and very physical, and I just had a blast with her. She was just like wonderful. She was everything that mother wasn't. So much fun, and mother was always sort of heavy and not n- n- an unhappy person. Frankly, mother was an unhappy person, but Granny didn't let things bother her. We just had a blast. And so Granny, I spent a lot of time with her. And as a child, she did as an adult looking back on it, a very unfair thing. She made me promise that I would not let my mother and her brother, Granny's children, put her in an old folks home, as she called it. And, of course, I promised that, but little did I know that when I got to that point in my life, I would have very little say, as in 0, about what was going to happen to her, unless I was going to take the full responsibility of taking care of her. Perhaps it would have been different, but I wasn't in a position to do that, and so sh she went into a home, and it was, excruciating for me. I felt like I had really, um violated a promise, and it was a great source of anxiety and guilt for me. So when that happened, though, Mama and Daddy, at Mother's insistence, they just went off in the motorhome. They went traveling all over the West and everything, and left Granny, which I thought was, I had a lot of judgment about that. And when um, it came Mother's turn, it was like I didn't wanna be that kind of daughter, I just didn't wanna be that kind of daughter, and, so I was actually, I guess, to a large degree, I guess happy is not the right word, but I felt there was an opportunity for some redemption on my part, that I could provide for my mother what I had wished that I could have provided for my grandmother, and that I thought that my grandmother deserved. But because I couldn't, I could at least do it for my mother. And so for that reason, um, I was like, I'm going to do this. You know what I mean? And I felt a certain amount of relief to have this opportunity.
Mm.
So, but to your point, yes, it was difficult. It was, like I said, it was like, what, 8 years ago, so time tends to, take over and things fade, but it was difficult, but I had wonderful, wonderful help, which so many people don't. These these women that were helping me with and the doctors, everybody in Costa Rica, they have a very different attitude about the elderly. The elderly are revered. I mean, even in the bank, you go to the bank and there's a line for elderly and pregnant people, women,
Right.
so, they don't have to wait in line. And, so there's just this reverence for older people that we don't have in this country. And so they were very, very caring, very loving, very supportive. They spoiled her rotten. She loved every minute of it, every minute of it. And so during that 1 year between the time getting her off the drugs, and she had that one wonderful year before the the beginning of the end set in, and it was we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun in that time, and then it was about then that Daddy, decided to come to Costa Rica, and, of course, he wasn't as, enthralled with it and happy to be there, but, he was happy to be with Mama, and Mama was happy that he was there, and we went places and saw things and had some fun, and, but then as Mama started getting worse and daddy became more, understandably, like, I think being a man felt like, he needed to somehow protect her, to do something. He was endlessly on the internet looking for the latest research about Alzheimer's and dementia, and he would get all excited about some study that he read, in Australia or something, and he says, "If we can just get your mama there, we have to figure out how to get you." And it's like, "Dad, look at her, she's lying there, she's, can't speak, she's incontinent, she can't walk, you know,
Mm.
no, we can't get her to Australia." And, so he was very frustrated and angry about that. And, I think with just in general, so he had this, of course, everybody was on edge. Everybody was on edge. And so when the time came that it was time for her, she stopped eating, stopped drinking. And the doctors said, this is the beginning of the end. And daddy refused to honor mother's wishes, which had been in the living will, that she did not want any extraordinary effort made to keep her alive, including tubes or, so on and so forth. And daddy refused to honor that. And I never in a million years expected that to happen because we all sat there together. And while they, created this document and signed it, and, everybody felt good that we have a game plan, and an understanding, and it felt like, like we had something. And then whenever he took that position and insisted that we have the tube put in and start feeding her, and and she fought it and didn't want it, it was just horrible. So I was stuck between my father and his insistent while he locked himself away in his room and on the computer all day and would only come out to eat, and check on her once in a while and go back because it was very hard to be with. He didn't have to
Absolutely.
deal with, the bed sores and all the other horrible things that she was going through. And that really put me in a bad spot. That was probably the most difficult part about it, that I was in that position between him and what my mother's wishes were, and unable to do anything about it. That was hell.
Yeah, I'm so sorry you had to go through it. But I'm sure that a lot of families encounter something similar. So for the spouses, it's their way to maybe just do something to not lose their
Yes,
spouse. And that's the
yes,
only thing that they know. And then, but for you, it's so hard to be, between your mom, what she needs, what you think is best, she wanted, and then your dad. And from that, I want to ask you, how did you take care of yourself? But before we get there, you mentioned that you were using tapping with your mom.
yes.
How did you discover
Hallelujah.
tapping, and what did you do with it?
Well, I actually discovered tapping, wow, 20 years before that. I discovered it back in the 90s, and it's called emotional freedom tapping. And I studied it being a coach. I was interested in that sort of thing, and they were getting phenomenal results, especially with all kinds of things. But they were having uh, amazing results with PTSD and Vietnam veterans that were suffering. And I had seen the studies and the examples, and it was so impressive. The results from that were just amazing. And I had used tapping myself for myself, and I had gotten extraordinary results with it as well. And so when mother was becoming so anxious, she had such high anxiety, and she couldn't speak and tell us what she wanted. She would just be like that and just oh, it was just horrible, and so, nothing seemed to work to soothe her, and I did, research on doing tapping on others, and so I started with before she couldn't speak. I mean, I've started when she could still speak is what I meant to say, because part of it was if, you start with, this what we call the karate chop area of your hand and tapping here and saying the words, although I have this whatever, this pain, this discomfort, this fear, this whatever you're tapping about, which with mother was anxiety, or even though I have this anxiety, I deeply and completely love and appreciate myself. And you say that 3 times. Well, 2 things. Mother could not tap, and, when I would hold her hand and tap her hand for her, she would like, "No, I'm not saying that. It's not true. I'm not saying that. I don't love myself. I don't appreciate myself. No, I'm not saying it. I'm not." She'd just get mad again. So what I was able to get her to, I said, "But mama, would you like to love and appreciate yourself?" And that caused her to stop and think, and she was like, Yeah." I said, "So could you say that? Could you say, 'I want to love and appreciate myself'?" She was like, I can say that. So then we would start with, and that's as far as she ever got. She never got to that she did love and appreciate herself, but she could say, "I want to." So we started with that, and then I would tap on her face, which is the points are here to the side of the face. These are the acupuncture points, and you tap on these places, and then under the arm, and then the top of the head. And as you do this, you repeat, and it's like with mother, I was repeating about that you start with what's so. I have this anxiety and I deeply love and appreciate myself. And then, you start with here. I have this anxiety, this deep anxiety, this feeling that something is very wrong, this feeling something's going to happen to me. I need to get away from this. Something bad is about to happen. I'm really upset. I'm really bothered. I have these feelings. And you go through that 3 times, like you're recognizing that you have that. And then you start with, although I have these feelings, they don't serve me. It's not helping me feel any better. It's making me feel bad. I don't need it, etc., etc. So then you go through the, I think I'll let it go. Till you get to the point, I'm going to let these go now. If I need them later, I can always come back. But for now, I'm going to let them go. I'm letting it go, letting it go, letting it go. And I would go through that with mother, and she would just be, huh. She would feel so much better afterwards. And it was pretty phenomenal. And then, of course, she got to the point where, um, that I had to start using metaphors, and
Mm.
I talked about instead of the feelings, I would talk about it's like I asked her one time what it felt like, and she said, "It feels like there's all this dirt. There's all this dirt in here." And so then we started talking about the dirt and sweeping the dirt out, that we were sweeping it out, and now everything's clean. And that helped her a lot. So, tapping was just a really great tool. It helped her, and doing it with her is also soothing for yourself.
Yeah, but it also sounds that your coaching skills were very handy.
Oh, yes, yes, definitely. I mean, I've been interested in coaching, since I guess I started coaching back in 1989 was when I was first introduced to it and became fascinated with it. And so it's just, yeah,
Yeah. So, besides tapping and being soothed by tapping with your mom,
yeah.
how else did you care about yourself? Because I know we sometimes speak about caregiver rescue and what caregivers could do, but it's also so hard. It's Miguel cared for his dad at some point, and he spoke recently how even though he knew what to do, he would take his yoga mat when he would go to help his parents, and he would never ever unroll that yoga
Yeah.
mat. He would eat junk food more than healthier food just because the stress levels are,
Yeah.
I think, so high. And even to have the insight that, hey, I need to take care of myself right now because I'm going to burn myself. So, what did you do, or did you, or when you were caring for your mom?
Again, I was so fortunate that I had such beautiful, reliable help that I had the luxury of going on walks every day. I had friends that we would walk our dogs, and it would be like and walking in Costa Rica, and going for hikes, go for an hour hike with the dogs, and with the birds, and just be outside in nature and talking to other people about their lives. And, it's just like to have that reprieve from my life was tremendously, it helped keep me sane, so I know that I how fortunate I was, and I know most people or many people aren't, but I would say that it's something that you that you simply have to do. It's like they say on the airplane, put on your own oxygen mask before you can help others. And
Yeah,
self-care, I think the one of the big things about self-care is that a lot of people, especially women, see it as a self-centered thing or being selfish to take care of yourself. And that is one thing that I think really needs to shift. And the reframe that by taking care of yourself, you're actually preparing yourself and making yourself more capable to take better care of those that you are caring for. So it is not a selfish act. It is in fact an act of service to those you love to make sure that you are as strong and capable as you can be. And to not do it is frankly irresponsible and uncaring. And I'm not talking about yourself. It's like you're limiting your ability to take care of others by not taking care of yourself. What's that about? You know, it's not martyrdom. It's not being the martyr. You know what happened to
yeah,
martyrs? They burn up.
yeah,
So,
totally. And I think coming from you, it's even stronger because you went through this. You know how it feels. And do you have something right now that you think, I wish I knew it back then because I would have absolutely used it?
oh, do I ever? It's like yoga nidra is the
Mm,
most powerful thing that has come into my life, I think, since tapping. And it is incredible, especially for people, anybody, everybody, but especially if you're someone who thinks, "Oh, I can't meditate," or someone who has this, that overthinks, and
yeah.
it ruminates and go over, "I should have done this, what da 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 da," because of the way it's done, listening to someone guide you through the process. Um, it's just been, such a lifesaver, for me, uh, today. Like, I do it it's like, one of the people the leaders that I listen to says, "Think of it as, a type of hygiene." It's like we would bathe every day to take care of our bodies, or brush our teeth and what have you. And this is something that we do for our mind and body. It's a way of taking care of ourselves that, like we would take care of anything else about ourselves. It's a hygiene and should be
Oh, yeah.
practiced daily.
100%. And right now, it's when I came to yoga 20 years ago, it was more just a yogic practice, something in a way exotic that all of a sudden you're going to lay down and relax deeply. like
Yes.
basically almost feel your body completely relaxed. Right now, there's so many neuroscientists like Andrew Huberman who speaks about it. They call it the non-sleep deep relaxation, an
Yes.
SDR practice. So there's a whole neuroscience research that's backing it up. And really, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. I think
No,
when I have resistance to do it, it's just my mind running. And in a way, it's so addictive to be in that state of mind that is running, to just pause for 5, 10 minutes. But when I do it, it's so, so, so beneficial.
it
So
is.
it's amazing to hear it from you that you're doing too.
I stumbled across it. I started listening to, actually, my doctor told me about it. My medical
Amazing.
doctor
Yeah.
told me about it. And I and then I found it on I found Insight Timer, which is a free app. And
Hmm.
I use there's just a whole lots and lots of people that provide the process. But yeah, and you can get it from like 5 minutes to 3 hours. So you can get it for any time that you have available to practice. That there's no
Yeah.
excuse. I
We'll
just
link the app on
Oh,
the
good,
the
good,
the
good.
video and the podcast. So if anyone wants to join, and you mentioned you have a favorite person on that app.
I do. Her name is Allie Booth Boothrayd, I think, Boothrad. She
Okay.
is my absolutely favorite, and if that's not the correct spelling, I will get it to you, and you can put that in the
Yeah, we'll
notes
put it
below.
on the link.
Yeah, because she's very, very special, very
And I
special.
guess my last question to you is, how did seeing your mom going through this, your grandmother, maybe changed your approach to aging? Because again, I met you in an improv class. We're doing
Mhm.
playback theater together. You are giving talks, you coach people, you walk with weights, and you're just this absolutely vibrant person who is going for life, has plans forward, wants to sustain herself. So, how much seeing that in your family affected your approach to your own life?
Well, I think that it has, um obviously increased my awareness and of the gift that life is, and that you can still be alive, but like your health span is what's important. And to be able to do the things that I love, I have to be healthy. And I love improv, I love public speaking, and I love performing. I love these things, and I have to have, far as I can tell, I gotta have one of these to be able to do the things that I love, and so I have to take care of it. And of course, I would be it would be untrue if I were to say that I have no concerns about it, about Alzheimer's and my own issues. And I'm 73 now, and so yeah, my I there are things I don't remember like I used to, and of course that's always like and concerns for me. But I had my DNA checked through 23andMe and a couple of other places. I do not have the, oh, well, you forget about it, sister. I don't have that kind of gene. I have a slightly greater chance than anybody of developing it. But I do, it's like I take that as uh, like encouragement. It makes me want to take better care of myself. It's like gives me reasons to exercise, to eat right, to do things like improv. Not that I need any like encouragement to do that because I love it, but it's like brain exercise, So it's just I get to work on the way I get to take care of my body is to do something I love, and it's a gift that gives back because
100%.
doing it improves my brain and keeps me active. And so it's just life is a great, great ride. It's a great gift and opportunity. And um, oh, I wish I had my favorite quote in front of me so I could say it exactly. But it's no brief candle. It's a vibrant torch that needs to be held and carried rightly until I can't do it anymore. So
Mhm.
I just wanna just honor this gift to the greatest of my ability and not
And I
waste time worrying about it.
and I think you're such an example of it, because I see you doing all of these things, and they don't come from the perspective, I'm so scared to get a disease or doing
Mm.
this thing, so I gotta go improvise so that my brain is sharp. It's more just, oh my gosh, I love to be being alive. I love performing. I love connecting with people. I think you love people in
Oh,
general. I
yeah.
know you're helping many people, and just that passion drives you forward. And then from that
Yes.
passion, you take care of yourself. And I know you've had all kinds of hardships in your life, so it's not that you're just completely privileged to
Yeah.
arrive at the point where you are. It's almost you carried through, and still you didn't lose your spark.
Well, you know what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is my belief, and so I just keep getting stronger and stronger
Amazing.
and
Well,
appreciative.
yes, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Teresa. We'll link all the contacts for Teresa and her website. So if you're curious what she's doing, get in touch with her. But again, I'm
Absolutely.
privileged to call her my friend, and I'm sure we'll talk again because she's
Wonderful.
a wealth of information and encouragement.
Thank you so much, Conga. It's been my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we'll see you in the next episode.